Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Makers Demo Day. My name is Leo, and I'm a technical coach here at Makers. And we're here today to showcase the incredible final projects developed by our July cohort. So I first introduce the cohort, and then each team will present what they'll be working on during those last 2 weeks. Afterwards, please stick around for a Q&A session with Ailey and I, if you got any questions about joining Makers, for example. So many of you will already know that Makers Academy is a 16-week coding bootcamp, and it's a quite intense learning experience. And over the course of their time here, many developers go from knowing some coding basics to just being able to deliver a web application completely from scratch. And at Makers, we believe that anyone can learn to code. And just a few months ago, the developers that you are about to see tonight were enjoying their first week here, getting to grips with things like test-driven development and building simple Ruby classes. And today, now they can build and deploy entire projects and web apps to create the products that they'd like to use and to see in the world. So I'm now going to say that to the cohort directly, even if I already said that to you earlier today. You should all be extremely proud of what you've all achieved until today. Think about it for a second. You just started the full-time course only 12 weeks ago, and look where you are at now. That definitely wasn't an easy challenge to do. And you can all imagine, even if you're not a software engineer yourself, even if you're not a technical person, or if you're not in the industry yourself, how challenging this might get. Every week for the past 16 weeks, they had new concepts to learn, to digest, and to use in various challenges, exercises, and team projects. And just when they thought that they had some time to breathe and to let their knowledge sink in and to get some rest, then a new week was coming with, again, an avalanche of new things and new concepts to learn. And not only purely technical skills and concepts, but also a lot of things that make great software engineers and great teams. Things like teamwork, communication, agile planning, developer process, giving and receiving feedback, reviews, and so on. And if all that sounds challenging, it's simply because it is very challenging. And before we move on to the presentation, I just wanted to take a moment to fully appreciate that and the work that has been done by this cohort. And it's always so great for us coaches and makers and inspiring to see how much developers thrive at Makers, and especially in such personally challenging times like we had this past year and a half. So I'm really excited to see where they'll go next. Right, that's probably enough of me talking. So without further delay, let's move on to the presentations. Please note that after each presentation, you'll be able to ask 1 or 2 questions max to the team through the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom window, and the team will be able to answer them. All right, I'm now going to introduce the first project. So tech and software gives us superpowers, right? We're able to do a lot of things that we weren't able to do before computers and the internet. We're able to communicate, share, create things that we couldn't do before. And the first team to present tonight thought that it would be good to use a bit of those superpowers to make the world a slightly better place, or in other words, to do tech for good. And so I'm not going to say anymore, and I'm going to let the first team present their project, Second Helpings. So over to you, Tim.
Hello, my name's Lizzie, and this is Second Helpings. Along with myself, the team is made up of Yusuf, Paul, Nicola, and Zainab. As a team, we agreed that there's a real problem in the UK with food distribution. Specifically, loads of food is wasted in the hospitality industry every day, whilst others go hungry. So we designed and built Second Helpings. It's an app that helps food businesses match up with charities that can make use of any food that would otherwise go to waste. I'll now hand over to Yusuf, who will demonstrate the app.
Hi, I'm Yusuf. So this is a demo video of our app. And if you scroll down on the homepage, you can see we've got a counter there for lifetime meals donated on the app, and a leaderboard with the businesses that have donated the most. So if you go to sign up in the nav bar, you can sign up as either a charity or as a business who wants to donate, and you get a different form in either case. But for now, we're going to log in as an already existing user so we can see some account history. And we'll log in as a business who can donate. And once you log in, you can see all the listings that you've made in the past. And you're also able to see the status of those listings. So if the donation has been claimed already or if it's still available. You can also add new listings, and you just have to put in the number of meals and a description, and also set a time that it will be available until. And once you create that listing, you'll get a little notification saying it's been successfully added. And if you go back to your listings page, you'll see it there at the top. So now if we log out and we can log in as a charity user, once you're logged in as a charity, immediately you'll see a map that has all the listings are currently available as the red markers, and the black marker is the currently logged in charity. And if you scroll down, you can also see the listings as cards. And this one here at the top is the listing we just made a moment ago. So if you want to claim that, you can press claim listing and you get a pop-up with more details, and you can just press confirm. Or alternatively, you can also claim listings through the map. So if you click on one of the markers, you get a similar pop-up where you can confirm there. So now both those listings that we claimed will be in our My Claimed page. And there's also a third one here, which is from the past. And I think that's the end of the video. So now I'll hand you over to Paul.
Thanks, Yusuf. At the very start of the project, we set out our team's working practices, including working in an agile environment and following test-driven development. Every morning we would meet for stand-ups where we'd check on the progress of our work and set the tasks and goals for the upcoming day. We also had retros at the end of the day, which focused on checking in on everyone, making sure we're all in a good place as a team and happy with our work processes. All throughout the project, we endeavoured to keep our work tickets as small as possible to avoid overcomplicating tasks, while also trying to make sure everyone worked across the full stack, therefore everyone getting some experience of all the technologies used in the project. We also tried to keep all our pull requests as small and as frequent as possible to enable smoother integration. So now I'll hand over to Nicola.
Hi, I'm Nicola, and I'm just going to talk a bit about the tech that we used and the challenges that we faced. So as a team, we settled pretty quickly on using the Mern Stack, which stands for Mongo Database, Express, React, and Node.js. The reason for this was that we all really wanted to challenge ourselves by learning a new stack, and we understand that this one is pretty popular in the market at the moment. And we also made use of a Google Maps API, which rendered the map view, which you saw in the demo. So for us, we really did gel quite well as a team. So the only challenges that we really faced were just sort of directly related to the tech itself. And the main challenge being that we hugely underestimated just how long it would take us to get a basic app up and running where users could sign up, log in and make posts. Because of this, we actually didn't get a chance to integrate some of the more interesting features that we'd planned out, specifically relating to like routing and directions for the charities after they'd claimed donations. So that's it from me, and I'm going to hand over to Zainab to finish us off.
Hi, I'm Zainab, and I'm going to sum up our overall experience. Having had the coaches put us in our groups, we were lucky to have been grouped together as we worked really well as a team, which made working on this app a lot easier. An app that uses tech for good and tackles real-world issues was great to work on. Food waste is a big problem, and so is hunger. So to incorporate that into our app was very meaningful. For me personally, having started Makers, not knowing how to use GitHub, to learning whole tech stacks is a great achievement. I think I can speak for the whole team when I say that we are proud of what we have achieved in these last 2 weeks, as well as in the last 12 weeks. We want to thank the rest of our cohort for aiding us in our learning and making this a pleasant few months. We also want to thank Makers for this great opportunity and for really helping us to learn by not giving us the answers, but by trying to get us to work things out ourselves. We hope you've enjoyed our app and our presentation. Thanks for listening. And now I open the floor for any questions.
Thanks, team. That was a great project and presentation. I think we should see more of tech being used to solve like problems like this. And thanks. Anyone has any question for the team, please use the Q&A feature on Zoom, on the bottom of your Zoom window, and the team will be able to answer those. Just gonna wait for a bit, see if I see any question popping up. All right, so we got one question, which is, I read it out loud, what aspect of the app took longer than you anticipated, and how did you overcome this?
So I guess the actual setup of the app took longer than we thought it would. So at this point, we'd made a few apps, which in essence have that kind of CRUD style where users can sign up, make an account and make posts. So we thought that that aspect would be a lot quicker in this project. But Mern was just a bit of a learning curve for us, and it just ended up taking longer than we thought. We didn't overcome that in a sense. We just sort of had to replan and reevaluate what we realistically could get done in the time that we had, because we always wanted to make sure that we weren't stressed and we were just doing what we could with the time that we had.
Nice, thanks. We've got a second question, which is roughly how many man hours were invested in the work projects? I don't know if that's something that you've got calculated.
It's hard to say. I mean, the project was 2 weeks. The first day and a bit was the first half of the day, was planning, and then we did a bit of self-led learning until Wednesday, which is when Wednesday last week, which is when we started coding, and then the feature freeze on this Wednesday. So there was 1 week of sort of actually adding new features and not just sort of polishing things off. A few of us did put in some late nights this past week, so we didn't keep a tally of how much overtime we were doing, but it's about a week.
All right, thanks. Okay, thank you, Tim. I guess we can move on to the next project then. So at Makers, we mainly teach adults to learn to code, and everyone on this call and everyone presenting today is an adult. But teaching code to children as well is quite a big topic and implies a lot of different things. That's how we teach to adults. And I guess this is the challenge that the next team wanted to tackle in a fun and engaging way as well. So Code for Fun, I will leave the floor to you now.
So welcome everyone to Code Team for Fun, or Team Code for Fun. Through our experience in Makers, we all related with the fact that having fun made learning much more enjoyable. After we discussed a lot of ideas of what we could do, we decided to focus on teaching entry-level coding fundamentals to children. And as we all know, software has become a large part of everyone's work and social lives in the past decade. Therefore, it is becoming increasingly important that children are introduced to the fundamental concepts as early as possible. Over the last 2 weeks, we have learned how to implement the Mern Stack and produced an application to introduce basic programming concepts to children by adopting engaging themes to keep the experience fun. Now I'll pass you over to Ed, who will run you through a demonstration.
Thanks. Okay, so here's our homepage. It's bright and colourful. There's some information about the app, plus some recommendations from some totally legitimate sources at the bottom. There's an about page so that parents and possibly teachers can find out a little bit more about the app, and some stuff about the founders as well. But really, the most exciting part of the app is the quiz page. So we'll click on that now, and we'll go to the routes that we can take. So here we have an attractive animated landing page for children to choose their coding routes. Each route has got a description of the theme of the story that you can pick, as well as what you'll learn from a coding perspective. So let's start off. Let's choose one of these quizzes. Let's take a voyage to the moon. Okay, so you can see that the page has two elements. We have a story element at the top, which outlines the kind of story context that continues throughout the quiz, plus some kind of gentle introductory coding concepts. And when you've read that and you've decided what the answer is, you can click on the answer in the quiz box below. So after reading this, we can tell that destination equals moon in quotation marks. So you can see at the top of each story, there's a specification as to what coding concept you're learning about. So in this case, arithmetic operators. The previous one was variables. So we'll just click the right answer again. And here we have arithmetic operators and variables. So we reinforce and build upon what children are learning on each step. And they're fairly gentle introductory concepts, assigning data type to variables on this one, and then comparison operators at the end. What is the moon made of? Cheese. We've got them all correct, 6 out of 6, well done. And you can see that it lists what questions you've answered and the kind of outcome of those, and they're all correct in this case. So we'll return to the quizzes and we'll just try an epic quest and see what happens if we get some wrong. And this is indeed an epic quest. from the Tolkien-esque pen of group member Ian. And you can see here one of the concepts behind the behind our app, which is, it's not hardcore code. This is code agnostic, and in this case it's pure prose. We're teaching the code concepts in a gentle manner for children. So here we're teaching arrays in the form of collections, in the form of lists, which I've just put in square brackets. I'm getting some deliberately wrong here, and you can see bad luck on 3 of the questions and a different message at the end, better luck next time, and you can note down the questions you got wrong for next time. So we'll just return to the quiz page just to demonstrate that the app is kind of reactive, that it does scale with the windows. So this has more than enough potential as a mobile app as well. But that is the end of the demo portion. So I will just close that down, and we will go to Ian for the next part.
Thanks, Ed. So I'll be talking to you today about the successes of our project and team. We've delivered a fully functioning app within 2 weeks, whilst also learning a completely new tech stack, Mern, from front end to back end, which is no small feat. We firmly believe that our app will appeal to young children who have maybe heard about coding and are interested in learning in a more fun and friendly and engaging way. Complex topics are introduced in a child-friendly manner through the medium of stories, and the learning is reinforced through fun quizzes. Code for Fun is language agnostic. It is a place to learn concepts rather than a particular language syntax. At the start of the project, we methodically planned out our MVP, our minimum viable product, using best industry practices, including brainstorming ideas, wireframing, creating user stories and tickets, and sketching out a potential model view and controller. We effectively communicated as a team through daily stand-ups to discuss what we've been working on previously and any blockers we were facing and were causing us not to progress. At the end of the day, usually accumulated in a retro to bring together the team to discuss our collective successes and failures and how to improve moving forwards. Code was controlled and reviewed through successful implementation of pull requests and management of risks. It was successfully carried out by clear communication, keeping to task with the MVP, and not getting sidetracked by feature bloat. The Code for Fun team has been extremely committed to the product overall and to each other to ensure we delivered a great app on time. Thanks for listening. I'd like now to pass it back to Ed again to talk a little bit more of the challenges we faced as a team.
Okay, so we experienced some challenging group dynamics in the first week, causing demotivation throughout the team and some difficulties getting the project up and running. We overcame this by being open and frank about what was causing this issue, facilitated by help from the coaches. However, this caused another challenge, added time pressure this week. We were up against it, and we overcame this by following the good agile processes that Ian has just alluded to. In particular, by merging our code more frequently, it helped us to keep on top of changes to the code base and crucially gave us a tangible sense of progress. Learning the Mern Stack was also frustrating in places. We overcame this with patience and the step-by-step approach that Makers has taught us, and good debugging practice all along. There's plenty of self-led learning, but also lots of pairing and supporting each other on tricky tasks. Getting to grips with the Mern Stack involved a lot of research, a lot of tutorials, and that's obviously hard to kind of balance with the time pressure we were under. So it's definitely been a challenging project on a number of levels. I think we're collectively very pleased with how we work together to overcome some pretty significant obstacles. So over to Ali for some concluding remarks.
Thanks, Ed. To say the past 2 weeks have been a roller coaster ride would be an understatement. From learning a new tech stack to having added time pressure, in these 2 weeks, we have definitely learned a lot. The project was developed to be very scalable, as we feel we've just scratched the surface of the learning for fun niche, and many more features can be implemented to build on this. This project highlights our adaptability as a team and as individuals. I think I can speak for all my team members when I say that we'll definitely be taking the lessons learned forward in our coding careers. Thank you very much for your attention. I'd like to now open the floor for any questions.
Thanks a lot, Tim. That's a great project. Like, as someone who's teaching programming and code like daily, like this is having full of good ideas that maybe you could even steal in the coaching team at Makers. Thanks. So let's have a look if we have questions for you. Yes, we've got one. So if you were going to continue working on this project, what else would you like to add to it?
I can take that one. One thing that we were looking to add to it was going to be a lot more pictures and a user profile. So giving you the ability to actually sign in and have a look at a progress bar. We were also looking to add, you can also add like a hint button on each question where you get stuck, and an option to go back to the question, and a progress bar would be also appearing on the cards at the front. Another thing that we were thinking was that with regards to scalability is that the more themes that you can keep on adding onto it, the more cards you can just keep on adding to your quiz dashboard.
Yeah, we'd also like to have used React a bit more because the front end is all done with React, and we only scratched the surface really after 2 weeks, and we'd have liked to have done more kind of with the interface beyond multiple choice questions, some drag and drop stuff, things like that.
Nice, thanks. We've got a second question, which is, were you working remotely or in person? So I can say for the team that they were working remotely. And if remotely, how did you find this? And what do you think you would do differently next time?
I can answer that. There's also a question about age range. It's kind of hard to say. I think probably entry level sort of 5 to 8 would be suitable. I think any older, it might be a little bit too simple. But the idea with our app was that we could expand on this with further quizzes for different age ranges, and that would also be a scalable option for us. In terms of remote work, I think the most important thing that we found is just communicating very frankly about when you're meeting and what you're doing, and especially when you leave meetings, being very clear about what you're about to go and do, because otherwise it's very difficult to proceed in a productive way. And without that sort of very clear-cut and honest approach, it's very difficult to work remotely. But I think we were quite successful working together as a group.
All right, thanks a lot, Tim. There are other questions in there, but I unfortunately have to move on to make sure that we don't overrun in time. But thank you everyone for asking questions and for the team to answer them. All right, let's go on to the next project. So this course is quite challenging and draining one, as we mentioned. So sometimes you need a bit of time to unwind and maybe to relax and to do something else. And maybe sometimes what you just need is to play a game. And that's what the next project is about. So Golf Saga, this is to you now.
Hi and welcome to everyone who's present on this is a presentation for the Golf Saga application, basically a game. Basically, it's in the same family with the puzzle type of games like Candy, Saga, and such, playing golf with many flavors. With a touch of colors, you can solve each level, not being concerned about the individual pieces. Throughout the game, we don't put a lot of pressure on knowing the points assimilated by different type of balls in the game and such. So basically, the most important thing is to relax your eyes and just look for emerging patterns and try and make use of the extra bonuses that you get based on wind conditions and distance and such. The game itself is meant to be simple, enjoyable. It doesn't expect any commitment time or state-wise, meaning that you're not under pressure at any time to deliver it or to pass the level. You don't have a time limit. And state-wise, if you're not happy with the grid that you've been offered for that particular level, all you have to do is to refresh the page, and you will have a new grid, and hopefully you'll do better with it. These are some screenshots of the game. For the start of it, when you fail, obviously, sorry, and try again. And the next level, once you achieve the percentage of the target points that you were supposed to. The stack itself is the Mern Stack with React.js dynamically serving the HTML, Express Node.js on the runtime environment in JavaScript, and MongoDB for the data assistance. The learning curve involved throughout the whole course with makers, learning obviously other languages like Ruby, and but the main thing for this project was JavaScript, jQuery for bulk event control, extended CSS. We couldn't make use of Bootstrap. The colors were very sensitive. I was trying to be very sensitive about the colors. And on the client side, again, React is to implement the presentation server, Node and Express, and some Photoshop, which damaged my eyes for a couple of days, trying to get the right colors in place. Blockers are setting up the game, finding a balance between difficulty and commitment. Obviously, we don't want the levels to be too hard. and therefore not enjoyable at some point. But we also want the people to commit for a couple of minutes if they start to play the game, so they get to know it and possibly enjoy it. Again, color control, wrong colors hurt, they hurt your eyes, and they basically throw you out if you don't have the right colors in place. It's a huge task, especially in a game where you have so many colors active at any given time, to make some kind of a balance with all those colors. Features overcrowding, too little, too much. We're always tempted to think when we start something that we have too little to work with, and then we end up having too much, and we become stressed, we become anxious. We don't feel like, we feel actually that we have too much on the table. And for that, with that in mind, the best thing to do from the beginning of any project is to have or set realistic expectations for it to go, and then you get to enjoy it because you feel like you're doing the right amount of work that you were supposed to. This is a short recording of a playing session. It's about 1.5 minutes if you'll be patient. So on the top corner of the screen, you have the win conditions, which are randomly generated. They ensure you get some kind of a twist in the game by adding some bonus to the points that you already getting for your play. You also have a bonus for the last valid hit distance, which is in yards. Basically, the longer the shot, the next shot will get a larger bonus. The bonus would be extracted from the target point, and the points for the balls, which are not marked, they were marked and they would have been visible, but then I've decided that the game was becoming a bit too attention precious or something like that. It was requiring too much attention to exactly know which ball is which. It's more like just a relaxing game, trying to figure out some patterns. And the levels are pretty easy to move through. Yeah, future steps are probably deployment on Saga.net. On the VPS, we purchased the domain. It's a VPS with self-administration, so they offer very little help, and putting the whole stack there, it is quite challenging. Probably we'll deal with it in the future. Thank you very much, everyone.
Cool, thanks a lot, Radu. It looks like this game would be very addictive. That would be quite dangerous for me if I were to start playing it, because I used to be really addicted to games like Candy Crush and all the others, so that would really suck my time in. But thanks, that's a great game. All right, is there any question for this project? So there's one. How many levels did you build so far?
So the levels are generated automatically. There's nothing to do. The increase in difficulty, it only means you get less balls that have points on them, right, attached, and you get the gray ones, more and more of those, which would make it harder for you to assimilate points as you move through the levels.
All right, interesting. So you don't like do all levels like one by one, but you like generate them by tweaking some parameters and things like this.
Exactly. From the game setup, from the constructor, or we have like random chances for each ball to be present within the grid, and then we put it into a large array, and then we just select one value, and that is the value. The null ball, which doesn't have any points, has a second chance to re-enter the draw, so therefore it would have a greater presence as you move through the levels.
It's really cool. Thanks. I think so. Programming can be frustrating sometimes. Like you use a lot of different tools, you use a lot of like different softwares and languages and things like this. And sometimes after like 7 hours of working continuously on something, sometimes you just stare at your screen and you're really just like what is this and why is this happening to me? And you just want like to get it over with and maybe go to the pub or something. And so the next team basically tried to use that maybe slight frustration sometimes and those challenges and to make another game out of it and to have fun with it. So, and they actually gave it the well name of Dev's Full Stack Nightmare. So I'll leave it to them to present the game.
Thank you very much, Leo. So hello everyone and welcome to our presentation for Dev's Full Stack Nightmare. This is a web app game designed by Amelia, Ash, Dan, Fiona and myself. Look at us, we're all gamers and we knew right from the get-go that we wanted to create a fun game and had some pretty specific ideas about what we wanted to make. Needless to say, we're very happy with the result. Massive shout out to the entire team who collectively and individually have put in a huge amount of effort to this project. Everyone brought something to the table. And there's been a lot of overtime during evenings and weekends, particularly in the last week, to get it over the line. But we have, and we've fulfilled all our initial user stories, including all the bonus ones. We've just about added every feature we wanted to add and more. So what is it? I'm going to pass over to Amelia, who's going to give us a little rundown of what the game is all about.
Hello, everybody. Meet Dev, an aspiring junior programmer, just like some of us, who's got so much on their mind that they appear to be stuck in a mysterious nightmare, haunted by some of the problems and bugs that are giving them a hard time. Thankfully, we can help Dev by carefully navigating their nightmare and overcoming these fears.
Thank you, Amelia. I've just put in the general global Zoom chat the link to the app on Heroku if anyone wants to go check it out while we're having a chit chat. But now I'm going to pass over to Ash, who's going to talk about the ideas and concepts we had for the game.
Okay, thank you. So 3 concepts quickly materialized as group favorites. That was platforming, turn-based combat, and randomized map generation. We quickly realized that we could merge the latter 2 into one awesome idea and quickly got to work on an ever-growing list of features we could add to our game. And once the MVP was established, the sky really became the limit of what we could do and add. We can happily say that our random map generating algorithm is something we're very happy with, as is our turn-based battle system. Give it a go and see how you find it.
Thank you very much, Ash. So there you have it. Let's see it in action. We're going to go over to probably our best top player in our team here. That's Fiona, who's going to give us a little demo.
I'm so bad at this game, you guys. I'm so bad. So I really do recommend you go to Heroku because I can't show everything that we have in here. But you can see that we have 3 bosses and the player has multiple abilities. You can also see that what happens with these abilities is randomly rolled. You can heal, you can do a stab in the dark. There is even the chance for an enemy to get a critical hit on you, which is what's about to happen to me with my wonderful score of 139. Now, when you start a new game, you should also see that you can put your name into the field. I highly recommend you do because the leaderboard has gotten very competitive. There's also local difficulty. So right now I've battled Git, that's one of our bosses, but as you can see on our brand new map, I'm about to run into a lower level difficulty enemy, and that random generation is also something that we are quite proud of, as well as the little fainting animation. But I really do recommend that you give it a go.
Yep, as I said, the link to Heroku is in the chat. And yes, the leaderboard is very competitive. Someone's just overtaken me. So I'm going to have to sort that out straight after this presentation. So how did we build this app? Dan, magic mirror on the wall. Would you run through it, please?
Thank you, Will. I hope my background's not too distracting for the viewers. So there are many game engines and templates out there, especially for RPG style games. And we could have easily used these to get the skeleton for our game in place. But since we were at Makers to learn, we stood very clear of these engines and built our game from scratch. So we opted to use the P5 JavaScript library for our front end and quickly fell in love with its canvas and draw functions. We also used Node and Express for our small backend, and then used Jasmine and Cypress for the testing framework.
Cheers, Dan. So Next, we'll talk about some of the challenges we faced as a team. Fiona, would you mind running us through those, please?
So there's a reason that Git is a boss. Some of our biggest blockers actually came because it was the largest code base that we've worked on. Doing PR reviews and merging occasionally became a big issue. As Will noted, we did put in quite a few after hours hours in, and that is not necessarily healthy, but we are all really committed to this game. Testing a randomized environment is very difficult because obviously you can't necessarily anticipate what you're going to get. That's the point. And also, if you go to Heroku, you might notice that some of the elements on the page aren't quite where they are in this demo. CSS is really tricky, and accounting for different screen sizes, different browsers was a real challenge, but we've got it, I think, as good as pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with the results.
Excellent. It wasn't all bad news though. There was some pretty good stuff. So Ash is going to talk about us through some of the things that we feel went well.
Yeah, so the general consensus is that most things went well. The groundwork for this was laid during our planning, where we were able to create clear and concise tickets. This meant that we were able to hit our MVP by Thursday lunchtime, giving us almost an entire week to add further features, which we were able to add at an exponential rate. And finally, great teamwork is probably the main thing that allowed us to achieve this. In such a short time, everyone's willingness to assist each other and ask for help without fear of judgment meant that we were able to overcome any blockers that we encountered.
Yeah, really went well as a team there. So what did we actually learn from this project? I know I learned quite a bit, but Dan, would you mind running us through what we as a group learned?
Sure. So I think the whole group became a lot more confident with JavaScript, which I think was an aim for everyone going into the project. Secondly, we focused a lot on planning and modeling the project at the start, which really benefited us later on. I think if we were to go back and do the project again or do another similar project, we definitely put a big emphasis on planning and modeling again. And I encourage people that go on to do the Makers Academy to do the same with their final project. As mentioned before, we learned a lot about Git. That caused us some problems from time to time, but we did learn about merging and branches and conflicts. And I think going forward, we're a lot more confident with Git now. And then finally, we learned a lot about different environments because we had a backend, we had to test that. So we had a test environment, a development environment, a production environment, and we all became more confident in kind of dealing with different environments. We managed to deploy early and learn about the process of deployment and get an initial production version going early, which was fairly seamless. And finally, I'd encourage you to try out the app, get the top score, because Will's privately guaranteed that he's going to fund the Winners Makers Academy experience.
Thanks for that, Dan. So just to wrap up then, we'll just quickly talk about what we might do to develop the game even further. Time was our biggest enemy here. We didn't have much of it. If we had more of it, what would we have done? Well, once we got our MVP in place, that did include the basic map generation and turn-based system, the possibilities really did become endless. The templates are already in place to very easily add both new enemies as well as new abilities, and we'd have loved to expand the ability sets even further, possibly adding status conditions like stuns, turn skipping, manipulating dodge and crit chances, or things that happen over multiple turns, like a poison that damages you over multiple turns and so forth. We're really proud of our map, and we'd love to work a bit more with that as well, make it even bigger, see what we could do, create more mazes and so forth. The graphics as well, we'd love to, like, if we had more time, I mean, or a graphic designer on the team maybe, really ramp up the graphics as well. And yeah, and I guess the last thing to just say is mention that the we hope in a year's time it will be online battle royale mode, and it's going to be really hard. No one will be able to win it on free to play, so you'll have to buy the microtransaction boosts to win, and we can hopefully make a few quid off that. But yeah, that's pretty much everything from us. Thanks for listening to our presentation. We've really enjoyed making this game. I hope even if you give it a little go, you enjoy it as well. So I guess we'll take any questions now if we've still got any time left.
Thanks, team. That was great. And I love the graphics, by the way. You don't need a designer. It's really good as it is. just keep them. Cool. I've actually tried the game earlier, and it's actually really hard. Like it's way harder than managing Git for me now. So I didn't manage to get to the leaderboard. So I encourage anyone to try and to get on the leaderboard. Cool. So we've got one question. Well, first we've got one question, which is not a question, but just like a note from someone saying this is very impressive and the soundtrack is banging, to which I agree.
I just want to say that that was composed by Amelia, part of the team. That isn't an asset we reused.
That's
wow.
DJ McQuanzie fixed that one up for us. Cheers, Amelia.
Even better than the music and the code and the graphics. And we've got one question, which is everyone in the team seems super passionate and they love it. Do you think that contributed to your success?
I would say yes, absolutely, totally. We're all pretty passionate about games. We all kind of knew we wanted our own one, and everyone's just throwing ideas together. And at one point, it maybe felt like we had too many ideas, but we kind of quite rounded them off whilst keeping a bit of everyone's in there and came up with this. And everyone was very committed and dedicated to getting their part of it across, at least as a group, and it clicked really well, I think. So yes.
Lovely team.
Anyone got anything to add on that?
Yeah, no, I loved it. I'm super proud.
Ditto, it was a great team to work with. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I know we said we put in extra hours, but I enjoyed them. You know.
Nice, that's great to hear. And yeah, idea overflow is a good thing to have. I guess it's a good problem to have because then you have got more ideas, right? Cool. It seems like we got no more questions. So thanks, Tim. Before we go on to the final project for tonight, I'll just give a reminder to the audience that after the presentation, if you want to learn more about Makers and if you're interested into joining Makers, you can stick around for a Q&A session with Ailey and I. Right, and now it's time to go to the last team. So this last year and a half, we've been mostly working remote, and especially during the different lockdowns, and we've been able to have simple things like having coffee with friends or family, or getting physical gifts, or just like the simple things that make life what life is and make things worthwhile, right? And so still in the kind of theme of doing good things with tech, the last team decided to build a little platform that will allow people to send little gifts and coffee and nice things like this. But I won't tell more, and I leave them present their project, Only Gifts.
Hello, everyone. We'd like to introduce you to our app, which is called Only Gifts, which is essentially a platform for sending gifts to friends and family by way of shareable user profiles. Karine, would you like to explain a bit more about the initial idea and how we came about it?
Yeah, absolutely. As Leo already explained, we have done this course entirely remotely, and this added to the fact that some of our team members, we don't even live in the same country, meaning we actually never met each other. So sometimes it's just really lovely to, after a long pairing session, to maybe invite each other for a coffee or take each other out for a beer, but that's at the moment not possible. And after our initial brainstorming session, this became quite evident, and we pivoted to an idea to create a Buy Me a Coffee web app. From there on, we created our initial wireframes to have an initial idea how the project should look like, and Faria will tell you more about the planning now.
Yeah, so once we had the initial idea, we decided to produce some mock-ups and talk a little about how we wanted the interface to look. We settled on this idea of having like this public-facing user profile, because although initially the app was targeted towards friends and family, we thought that in the future it could also work as like an artist display page or portfolio page where fans could actually send small tokens of appreciation. Once we had this idea in place, we moved forwards and we moved towards actually familiarizing ourselves with the tech stack, as none of us had used it before. After this, we planned how we were going to spend the rest of our time, and we decided to have a daily stand-up, after which we would create, estimate, and allocate tickets. We would also have regular afternoon check-ins where we'd reflect on our day's work and see how everyone was feeling about progress thus far. We decided that the best way to learn and program at the same time would be to have independent study in the mornings and pair programming in the afternoons. This provided us a good balance between learning and implementing. We also tried to keep regular and consistent forms of communication within the group to ensure that we were meeting our internal targets and deadlines. I think I've said enough, so now if Blessing would like to show us through the app.
Yeah, thank you, Faya. For our application, we decided mainly for our core functionality is the ability for a user to be able to register an account and generate their shareable link. And this shareable link is given to your friends, families, and they can send you a present. So that's what is going on right now. And also, so you can send a present, which is making payment. And while you make payment, excuse me, while you make payment, it's successful, then the person who owns the account gets an alert in the account, in their profile, where they can check on to see who has sent them money and if you've dropped a little message for the person. Yeah, so basically that's what our application does. So you can generate your shareable link, get paid, receive a message, and the sender can also send a message. So yeah.
So we managed to make a payment, and Blessing is going to continue our process from there.
Okay, yeah, so this is this is for a new person who needs to register. You register your account and you can set up your bio. There's a profile, you own a profile, so you can set up your bio, put a lovely picture, and write a little bit about yourself, and also generate your shareable link, as I said earlier, which that link is now passed on to everyone. You could put it on your social media just to get people to send you something if you want. So yeah, basically that's what our application can do currently. Yeah, okay, so I'll pass on to Otu to talk about the stack.
Cheers, thanks, g'day. So if we had more time, we would like to take the functionality further. For example, we wanted to create a search bar where the user can search for other registered users and eventually work towards creating a community with the ability to add friends and followers. The tech stack we decided on, much like everybody else, was Mern. A couple of reasons why we chose Mern, namely because of its ease of use, its ability to create a diverse variety of applications quickly, and apparently it's in high demand, so hopefully we can get jobs. This project provided a great introduction to this tech stack. Cheers, over to you, Suhani.
Thanks, Otu. I'm Suhani. So this project was a particular learning curve for all of us. Right amount of planning and evaluating the project and its possible complexity at the initial stage could have been better. Secondly, breaking down to smaller and explicit tickets would have given us more clarity and saved us time. And everyone coordinating on the approach to implement feature, as there were multiple ways to do a particular task. A lot of time, our approaches did not best complement with each other's work. To have an open line of communication and discussion regarding the same would have set all of us on the same track. And the next main thing was focusing on having a solid base, which would have been easier to build on and would have saved a lot of time. Management was a main factor. Our estimation on tasks, we underestimated a lot of tickets and tasks, but this went hand in hand with challenges of learning a whole new tech stack. Each individual getting to work on either the front or back end of the same task gave us better understanding of the Mern Stack and the features implemented. In short, this project, we faced several challenges, but we overcame them as a strong team. So that's our project. Thank you, everyone. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them.
Thanks a lot, Tim. That was a great project. I really like also that you've actually implemented a payment system, and I can say that it is working for real. I've seen it working, so it's definitely not an easy thing to integrate. So well done for that as well. So let's see if anyone has any question for this last project. So I've got one question for you. If you were to continue that project, which features would you add in the next versions?
I think something we would have been keen to integrate as well is to fetch a PayPal API. So to have both payment options, which makes it like a bit more accessible for everyone in the world. So PayPal is accessible in some countries, in some countries it's not, same as a Stripe. So that would just make it more accessible for everyone. Happy to pass that over to other team members.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, one of the other things is kind of like making it so we can have like a followers, like a following system. So you can have people who like what you do. You can display what you do, and people who like what you do can follow you. Yeah, kind of like a social media kind of application.
As Faria said earlier, for the artists to have more supporters and followers, like it can promote artists and to have a close connection with their fans. They can send gifts to the artist. The artist can showcase their talent inside the website. That was our initial plan.
All right, thanks a lot, Tim. Well, it seems like we don't have any more questions, so thank you, everyone. And I guess that's it for our presentations today. So thank you, everyone in the cohort, and well done. I really wish you the best for the next steps in your software engineer's journey. And again, I'm going to repeat myself, but I want to stress that you can all be really proud of yourself and of what you've accomplished so far and of your work. And so now I guess you all deserve well-needed and well-deserved rest this weekend, and just like take care of yourself and just like unwind and do something else than coding. All right, and thanks to the audience as well for being with us on this demo day. And now if you'd like to stay with us, I'll hand over to Ailey for the Q&A session now. And everyone else, thank you and have a great weekend.
Cool, thank you so much, Leo. Yeah, so firstly, I guess just another well done to all of the cohort. It's always so great to see all of your final projects. I guess for a little bit of context, if you're just joining us, the students who we get here at Makers are from all sorts of different career backgrounds. You know, people haven't come necessarily directly from tech, although we do sometimes get that. So to see them going from all these different careers, having very little sort of experience of coding, and then building these final projects, it's always something really special for us to see where they get to. So yeah, so for the next kind of I guess like 30 minutes or so, me and Leo are basically here to answer any questions that you might have if you're thinking of joining Makers as a student. We can tell you information about how to apply, the course content, all of those kind of things really. So I'll give you guys a few moments if you'd like to write any questions in the Q&A section as well. While you're doing that, I'll just let you know the next cohort dates that we have available currently. So we have spaces on our December cohort, which starts on December 13th, and that's a fully remote delivery. Obviously, with that cohort, there will be a break for the Christmas period. And then the next cohort after that is January the 24th, and that's hybrid delivery, which is where the students will spend 2 weeks learning on site, and then 2 weeks learning from home, if you're wondering about that option for you. So yeah, please feel free to send us any questions in the Q&A and we'll be happy to answer them for you. Okay, in the meantime, Leo, actually, I might sorry, I muted myself. We've got a question in the chat actually. Shola is asking, is there a course for DevOps?
So not on the paid bootcamp side. It's only generalist software engineering.
Cool, thank you. And could you just maybe give some detail about like what the DevOps option on the apprenticeship side is?
Yeah, I can give more detail on that. So the DevOps course on the apprenticeship side is a 7 or 8 weeks, I think, addition to the immersive, like kind of common course that we have on software engineering, and that helps to learn and develop additional skills and behaviors more on the DevOps side that kind of adds up on top of the software engineering main bootcamp. So as of now, we don't have that on the paid bootcamp. We only have that on the apprenticeship side.
Cool, thank you. So we've got a couple coming in now. So the first question is asking, how quickly do people get recruited after the course? Yeah, this is a great question, and obviously something that everyone wants to know, especially after you know, kind of going through COVID. I've spoken to our partnerships team just before this call today, actually, and they've said that this September is actually busier than our September for our previous years. So the COVID dip definitely did happen, but now has really ramped up. On average, like it's different depending on students. It has been up to 6 months, but you know, there's a real kind of variety in that. Like some people have been recruited, you know, in the week after the boot camp, some a couple of months. But our kind of like recommendation would be to prepare yourself for 6 months of job hunting, for a couple of reasons, really. Like I said, you might be recruited before that, but also just in terms of like getting your financials in order, and just preparing yourself for like the full extent of what the commitment could be. It's better to prepare it for you know, the kind of maximum option rather than what you're like hoping to do. So hopefully that helps you. Okay, next question is, where are we based? And is it a full-time course for the 12 weeks, or is it flexible? So we're based in London, but even now that COVID is hopefully going away, we will still be offering the remote and on-site option for the foreseeable future. So we've got a couple of students currently who, you know, are based in, you know, Wales or Scotland, or some a little bit further afield than that. So if, you know, getting to London is a blocker for you, hopefully the remote option should still work. And on the second half, is it flexible? No, so for the main bootcamp, there are elements of flexibility as it is self-led, but it is delivered as a full-time course. So, you know, the workshops that the coaches schedule, they are there for a reason. It's up to you whether to go to them or not. We're not going to be checking your name in, but yeah, it is designed as a full-time commitment. And I think, as some of the students said, as it gets towards the end of the course, like there can be some late nights. So yeah, do be prepared for that. Is there anything else that you want to add on that point, Leo, at all?
No, I think you said it all. Like, yeah, I'll stress again that the course is quite intense, and you need to really engage and dedicate your time on it. So it would be really hard to do that with like some part-time work on the side or something like this. So it's best to really dedicate your whole like time to it, especially because you're also going to need some time to rest every week, right? Because you need that as well. So it's important to have that time.
Cool, thank you. Awesome. So the next question is from Paul, saying, thanks for answering about the hybrid course. What are the next steps for some of this cohort that have just presented, apart from the weekend rest? Yeah, so I'm glad you asked this, actually, because I think obviously there's a lot of boot camps, and I think what the support that there is in addition to the technical training is a really big part of it. So just because the course is 16 weeks doesn't mean it ends there. We have a full team of staff who now help with the job hunting process. So we have our careers coaches, and they help with workshops to do with job hunting, CV development, all that kind of thing. So, and they'll check in with the students. You're not kind of like left on your own to do it. So yeah, there's a whole kind of almost job hunting curriculum that will be delivered now. Leo, could you help with the rest? I need to buzz my boyfriend into the building.
No worries, no worries. All right, let me see if there's all right, there's one I can take, which is, can complete beginners do this? Definitely yes. Like the course doesn't, and the admission process as well doesn't assume any previous like coding experience or experience in tech. So you will be sent in the admission process some things to do on Code Academy, I think, and online platforms that assume no previous knowledge. And same for the 4 weeks of pre-course before starting the main immersive course, and same. So definitely, if you don't have any previous coding experience, you can definitely apply to the course and be part of it as well.
Cool, thanks, Leo. Sorry, whereabouts are we up to if I missed one?
So I've just answered one about whether complete beginners could be on the course. There's one about funding from the UK Gov. I'll probably let you answer that one, as I'm not sure about the answer.
Yeah, so, oh, the top one, yeah. So Abby's asking, can you get funding from UK Gov if you're based in London? Yeah, so we've very recently started a new kind of like access route to the course. So you might have heard about the government's plan for jobs or skills boot camps, and Makers is a registered provider for these courses. And basically all it is it's the exact boot camp that the students who you've just seen were on, but you can apply to get a funded place by the government. Currently, I believe it's only for London-based. Oh, sorry, if you're based in Greater London, yeah. However, if you're based outside of London and want to do that route, there are a load of other providers who offer skills boot camps. But yeah, definitely look into that. I'll see if I can find the link for that option kind of during this call, and if I can, I'll drop it in the chat for you if you want to, you know, see if that's a better option for you. Okay, next question we've got is from Chris, saying, very interested in changing careers and starting the course Makers Academy. In terms of what I need to do to prepare myself for the course, I know there's some recommended Code Academy course in Ruby and Code Wars. Are there any further recommendations for the course? Furthermore, are there any resources that you'd recommend to get my head around not only learning a language, but to understand the tools used to implement code, i.e. Git, Bash, VS Code, etc. Leo, any recommendations?
I don't think we would give any extra recommendations specifically after like Code Academy and Code Wars, because the Code Academy course is already quite probably time consuming, especially like if you don't have any previous experience with coding, that's going to take quite a lot of your time, and there should be quite a lot of resources in that course already. And I guess then you can definitely find a lot on maybe YouTube or maybe online tutorials, depending on what you do. But that would really depend on what direction you take and things like this. But I think starting with the Code Academy course will give you already quite a lot of things to work with, and then you can go from there and see what you'd like to explore next.
Yeah, the only other thing that I guess I would add to it is I'd always recommend going to any like meetups or free workshops. There's so many out there. Code Bar is an organization that we partner with, and they offer free coding workshops, all sorts of like mentoring programs, that kind of thing. And I think that kind of thing can be really helpful, just because sometimes when you're very new, it can feel like, you know, you're the only person in the world who's facing these problems. And it's really, really great to kind of like get that community. Another group we work with is called Coding Black Females. They offer a very similar thing. And we also run workshops. I will find a link to our ones and post that in the chat for you as well. Okay, that one's answered. So next question is asking, do your employment partners such as ThoughtWorks and ECS come to pitch the employment opportunities at Makers? Yeah, so the way that companies kind of present their roles slightly varies from company to company. Sometimes we'll have careers fairs, which kind of, as you've kind of described here, the companies will come in, they'll kind of do like a 5-minute talk about like what the role is and the company culture, and then the students will get a bit of a chance to you know, chat with them, that kind of thing. Obviously, over the last year with the pandemic happening, the way things were slightly differently. So I believe it's kind of more of like a jobs board system, but we are looking to, you know, bring people back in and host our careers fairs again. But yeah, our partnerships team will basically let the students know about all the available opportunities, and they're then able to kind of apply for what we have, and opportunities outside of our hiring partner network as well. Cool. So next question is, what kind of languages and frameworks will they use?
Yeah, I can take that one. So we mainly teach Ruby as our first programming language for a lot of reasons, but mainly because it's a quite simple language that doesn't come with a lot of like overhead complexity, and you can quickly learn like high-level programming concepts with it without having to like put yourself with other like complex things like other languages would do. So that's why we chose that one. And then later you learn JavaScript as a second language, more as a way to like develop a process to learn a second language, and then you can go on your own and learn maybe a third language. And usually during the engineering projects that learners from the July cohort just presented to you tonight, they can choose to use their own tech stack. And usually it's like, I mean, most of the time it's tech stacks that haven't been covered in the course. So they got like the tools to be able to learn new ones, which is why we try to keep it quite limited in the terms of like tools and frameworks we teach. We rather give them the tools and the practices and the processes to be able to then choose by themselves the tools and the languages and the frameworks that they want to use and to learn them.
Cool, thank you, Leo. Okay, so next question. Have we ever had a situation where someone was halfway through the course and decided that unfortunately it wasn't for them and had to drop out? Would they lose the whole fee? That's a good question. Yeah, obviously we've had people drop out before. Luckily, it's not too regular an occurrence. I think our admissions team are quite good at advising on not only like are people ready technically, but like kind of relaying what the commitment is and that kind of thing. You do lose, I'm not sure how much of the fee you lose. I'll have to find out for you. I don't think that you get the money refunded. It's probably one of those things where it's like, you know, dependent on if you've just started the course or if you're like right at the end of the course. If you want me to get like a better answer for you, let me just drop my email in chat. That's my email. If you want to send me a follow-up just to so I can like, look into that for you, I'll chat to our finance team and see what happens in that situation, and hopefully they can help you with that. Cool. So next question is saying, some say Ruby is not popular. What's your opinion on this? Thank you.
Yes, thanks. I do have an opinion on this. So I guess I'll divide my answer in two parts. First part is that languages and frameworks and programming things in general are just like tools, right? You wouldn't like use a hammer to nail a screw, for example, or you wouldn't use like you know, some other tool for the jobs that it's not intended to do, right? So the more like you learn about those tools, the better you'll be able to pick up new tools when you need to pick them, when you need to start a new project, or when you need to start a new company that maybe uses slightly different languages than you use. So I've interviewed like quite a few developers in my career before joining Makers, and I never found that the language was something that I would choose, right? What I want to see is the process and the ability to learn and to adapt to new languages and to new environments. And that's actually what I'm looking for rather than whatever language you're using, because you'll be able to learn a new one and new tools, right? And that leads to the second part of my answer, which is that at Makers, this is what we're trying to teach. We're not trying to teach you only Ruby or only JavaScript or only something, but we're trying to use those as vehicles, as medium, to teach you how to learn new tools and how to give you the power to choose what you will learn next. And if you need to join a new company or build a new project, maybe your project, and you think like this tech stack will be better than another one, then you got the tools and the process to be able to learn those. So the language is not really important. What's important is like all the high level behaviors and skills that you will develop. And then the language is just your tool, and you'll be able to pick up new tools. That's my answer.
Cool, thanks, Leo. Yeah, I think that's really important actually, because like when people see the languages kind of like front and center on different bootcamp websites, like sometimes you think, you know, that's the whole story. But yeah, it, as Leo said, it's really about like the concepts that you learn there. But yeah, hopefully that answered your question. I'm sure it did. And the final question from Sarah is asking, what are mine and Leo's backgrounds? I'm guessing you mean like career-wise. I'll go first because it's, I guess, slightly less relevant. My role at Makers is events and diversity. So I kind of try to reach out to different coding groups to see if we can find scholarship places and try to kind of like diversify the students that we have coming onto our course, and have previously worked in other tech startups. So all that fun stuff. What about you, Leo?
Thanks. Well, that's very relevant as background to me. So mine is, well, I've started working as a software engineer something like 7-8 years ago, first in digital web companies, and then I moved more into the startup world, and I work in different startups as front-end, full stack, back-end engineer for e-commerce, things like even dating, music, delivery, and all sorts of things. And yeah, and then I joined Makers as a coach, so I wanted to go into teaching.
Nice. If you wanted to kind of learn more about our coaching team, actually, we've got this really good blog post, which I will post in the chat, which kind of tells you a little bit about the career backgrounds of our coaches. One thing that's, again, sets like bootcamps apart is how they kind of hire coaches and what employment history they look for. All of our coaches have worked for some like really, really amazing tech companies, and they've got a lot of experience. So it's not like people have had no industry experience and it's just kind of straight into a coaching role. So yeah, have a look at that blog post, because yeah, it's just really great to kind of see all their different experience. So hopefully that's helpful for you. That looks like the end of our questions for today. So yeah, thank you so much for staying on and joining us. Oh, there's one last one snuck in. Why would we recommend Makers as opposed to other boot camps is the last question that's come up from Paul. I think, to be honest, so the final answer that I was giving, like in terms of like the coach's experience, I do think that's fundamental. Different things work for different courses, but I know some boot camps, the students get to the end of the course and then they have the option to coach the next cohort. It's fine if that works for you, because obviously they'll be like really in touch with what material is, but I think the industry experience is really, really a vital thing. I would want that if I was learning to code. But also, secondly, Makers was the first coding bootcamp in Europe. So in terms of like reputation and which employers know who we are, that will help you so much in the job market. And we have students who, you know, studied with us 8 years ago, and now they're in, you know, senior developer positions or hiring manager positions. So they'll know Makers, and there's kind of like that network to be part of. And that's, you know, that's really something that's kind of like not comparable. So that would be my answer. Leo, anything else from that at all?
Yeah, I would agree with everything you said, and I would also add that what's really great about Makers, I mean, there's a lot of great things, but if I had to pick one for this answer, is that there's a holistic approach to software engineering and to learning software engineering. It's not only about tech, and it's not only about code, and that's what often people, junior and senior and more experienced people, miss sometimes with that, is that it's not only about the code and tech, and we are trying to teach you also a lot of like things like people call usually soft skills, but I don't like that term because that makes them less relevant and less important, whereas they're actually as important as the hard skills, which are like tech, coding and tech processes and things like this. Soft skills such as like communication, teamwork, giving and receiving feedback, communicating and being honest with yourself and with teams and all those things, makers put a lot of emphasis to that, both in technical coaching, but also with the EQ curriculums that we have with Dana around things like feedback, working in teams, making sure that you take care of your well-being and your emotional well-being and state and things like this. And I think this is like a big plus of makers as well. And again, I think I can speak for me and for a lot of people out there in the industry that are trying to interview juniors and people to join their software team, is that usually this is something that they will put a lot of importance on as well. Not only the hard skills, but the soft skills as well.
Awesome. Okay, we are done. Thanks so much, Leo, for staying and answering our questions. Thanks to all you guys for tuning in. And yeah, like I said, my email is in the chat, hayley@makers.tech. If you need anything at all, please just drop me a message and I will try to help you. Have a lovely evening, everyone. And yeah, we'll see you at Makers soon. All right, bye guys.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.